Sam Barber, congratulations. Fantastic season for your team, an All-American and third-place finisher at the NCAAs. You were there. We heard the crowd. People are getting excited about Air Force Wrestling. What's that like? People getting excited about Air Force Wrestling?
It's first humbling, right? That part, humbling, and we're grateful, gratitude. So those two things keep coming to my mind about, hey, like, stay humble about this. This wasn't something that was unexpected. This is something we thought we could do, right? This was always been the goal. So I think that's important to remind people too, is that we didn't, like, this has been the intention all along to get here. So, and we've really felt like we had everything we needed to do. It was just, as we said before, just doing all the right things long enough. But to see it come to fruition, to see it happen, like, yeah, it's like at times you're just like awestruck with it. And then you see the response of not only our athletes, our staff, our fan base, but the entire BOK Center, getting behind Air Force Wrestling and our athletes. It's just like you're coming back and you just keep having this idea of, like, I'm in this evaluation mode right now, and just like wow. But just keep trying to remind myself, like, this was the plan. This was where we intended to be.
And maybe you picked up some new fans along the way down there, right?
Yeah, again, like, it's I think Oklahoma and the wrestling community, they're very patriotic people. So that part, it's easy for them to get behind Service Academy athletes. And I think that obviously it's easy to get behind Service Academy athletes and what our guys stand for and what they're going to do after graduation and who they are. I think that community, that area, those people, wrestling fans, they understand that part, right? And then you get guys that wrestle and score points and they're exciting, right? That makes it all that much easier to get behind them. They're competing at the highest level. So, yeah, I think for us, that location, right, Oklahoma being very patriotic part of the country, wrestling fans being very patriotic people, it was really a cool environment to compete there where everybody in the arena, it seemed like, could get behind that, right? So it was exciting.
Yeah, for sure. Let's break it down wrestler by wrestler, because you sent 5. Everyone knows what Wyatt is. We'll save him for last. But talk to me about, the fight. Every single guy, to a man, Dylan and Sam and Cody, they all did a fantastic job. Tucker as well.
Yeah, we'll go by weight class, So I think Tucker Owens, like, incredible, right? A freshman in our program, a guy that we thought was pretty good when we recruited him, but just kept getting better and better and better, extremely coachable. And for him to, it was such a cool experience to watch him. He was on match 1 of the division of the national tournament, right? And he goes out there and he beats a guy that beat him in the year and kind of beat him bad, from South Dakota State. So for me, it's hard for me not to look at that win, that match, and not say that wasn't the spark that we needed to get us going, that was the catalyst, right? Because we were wrestling the entire first round except for Wyatt. We had to wrestle wrestlers that were seated above us, to include Tucker. We were 33, that guy was 32. And he goes out there and gets the proverbial upset, right? And he sets the tone for the tournament. So, like, that to me is something that sticks out, that made a difference, that made an impact, that influenced Cody Fippen when he stepped on the mat. But Tucker then, he goes out and he wrestles, one of the greatest wrestlers in the history of NCAA wrestling in Spencer Lee, and he gives a great effort, gets pinned. But how cool is it for him even to be able to say, hey, like, I got the rest of that guy, right? Like, and obviously he didn't take a backseat to him and he competed. Didn't get discouraged, comes back on the backside and knocks off the 17th-seeded guy from Army, who's a pretty, we thought was a pretty good wrestler too, but just executed a great match and did a great job, and then has one more final match. But goes 2-2 the national tournament as a freshman. It was a big deal. It was a big deal. Puts himself in the top 24 of the country, and again, like most of our guys, I'm going to tell you, and this program, is that he's got a huge upside still. So there's more to come. Cody Fippen, again, same thing, right? You're just like, man, like, how, I feel confident that Tucker's win had something to do with Cody going out there and, like, well, the freshman could compete in this environment. I can as a senior, right? And he has the number 11th ranked guy from a historic powerhouse in wrestling, Michigan, a guy that most people are predicting to be an All-American. And he goes out, he gets taken down, he doesn't get discouraged, he wrestles, and bam, hits a huge move, pins the guy, and the place erupts. And he's kind of the first big upset of the tournament. So again, like, people get excited about how we're wrestling, about who we are, and just does a great job. Comes back, has a heartbreak loss to a guy on 12 seconds of riding time. Like, inches and outs is razor thin. Gets into the backside, has another monster win over a 2-time All-American, gets another pin over a 2-time All-American, which is huge. A guy that like everybody in the tournament thinks is going to be on the podium again. Cody pins him. Goes on, wrestles a conference opponent in Iowa State and Reading, and winning the match. Gives up a reversal, ends up tie. We end up in overtime, and again we lose on a heartbreak takedown. But so Cody's round of 16, 2 pins over guys, and and that's where you see like there's still room for improvement, right? He was so close, like he was right there. There's no doubt in my mind that he wins that one. And then he's in around the 12 in another very winnable match against the University of Minnesota, and we got 2 All-Americans. So that's how close it was. Razor thin for Cody, but just grateful for him. Again, a career riddled with challenges of ups and downs, and just a tough guy to get through that and to get to the national tournament his senior year and to finish 2-2. I know short of his goals, but people. Those of us who know, and it's a really incredible to see that. So. Dylan Martinez, his story. You have to go all the way back to the Big 12s, right? To where he thinks his season's over, and then he goes and he wrestles 2 amazing matches. Then he still thinks his season is over. Then he gets in at large and he goes to the national tournament. He puts his best effort on the mat. He's 0-2, but I think when you're looking at Dylan, the NCAA's that doesn't tell the story of his season. It's his career. It's how he got in the lineup as a freshman. It's how he bought into the program, his growth and development, and how it culminated with him to have an opportunity to wrestle in the world's greatest wrestling event, right? And for him to go out there and give his best effort, and he'll be able to look back the rest of his life, knowing that I did everything I could for 4 years, and I got to the pinnacle of the sport, and I finished there at my best effort and put my best wrestling on the mat in my last competition. And I'm just really happy for Dylan that he's going to have that with him for the rest of his life. Sam Wolf is really hard for me to talk about. Heartbreaking. Separates his shoulder, dislocates his shoulder at the Navy Classic. Just has a hard time can't wrestle, right? And we're trying to manage. Think the season's going to be over, and we think, well, maybe we can manage this. Maybe we can get through. Get him back on the mat, get him to do a little bit more wrestling, and gets to Utah Valley, comes out again in the match. Still in that match, turns around, beats the returning All-American, right? Gets to the Big 12 tournament, gets to a big match. Another guy that beat him a year ago, beats him, earns a spot to go to the NCAA's. Shouldn't have wrestled him in the semifinals, but he wants to be a Big 12 champion. Not going to tell him no, right? Put him out on the mat. Loses to Plott, who ends up being an All-American this last weekend, and he gets to the national tournament. We're warming up on Wednesday night, and his shoulder comes out again, and there's just not enough time for him to have any kind of strength in any positions there. So just heartbreaking, heartbreaking to see him go out there, knowing what he's capable of, knowing how much he has invested in, knowing how much he cares, knowing what a leader is on our team, to see him, you have to go through that and end his season that way. The great news is he's doubled. He's committed. We're going to get him taken care of, and he'll be back next year, right? He's got 1 more year, and I'm sure he's going to come back and start off where he left off and be even better. So, but Sam Wolf just been doing this a long time. Haven't met anybody tougher.
Yeah, for sure. And, of course, Wyatt Hendrickson. Everybody's talking about him. Most dominant wrestler in the country. I mean, the way he came back after losing, because you would think a guy, I know he went in there thinking he was going to win it, gets a tough loss in the semifinals, and then the way he just kept battling.
I think one thing that's changed, and Wyatt said it over and over again, is that last year at the national tournament, the one thing you learn is just how to approach this tournament, right? It was a one match at a time. Be ready for whatever happens. So all the things that happened to him last year, where where he looked ahead a little bit, and then once he lost, maybe he didn't bounce back as well as he should have. He rectified all that stuff, right? He wasn't looking ahead. It was one match at a time, and things were going well. In the quarterfinal match, he finds himself on his back. He fights off. He gives himself a chance, and then he dominates the guy, right, to win, and he becomes our first All-American in 20 years. So, he gets in the semifinals. The match doesn't. We need the match to be to go our way. We needed it to be scrambles, and we needed to be action, and we needed it to be high paced, and it gets slowed down a little bit, and we get slowed down in some positions, and the match doesn't go our way against a guy that was a world champion, right? So we end up on the backside, but again, learning from the year before, like, he's not deterred by that. He goes out, he's wrestling a returning All-American from Northwestern and dominating him, and slaps a cradle on and pins him. Like, and you're like, wow, like, this is crazy. Like, that guy's really good, and and we're just really, really dominant in these positions. And then he's got the University of Iowa, historic program, another world champion, a 4-time All-American. And same thing, goes out, gets a couple takedowns, gets reversed trying to score points. That's who he is. That's what he's going to do, right? And then he steps over, reverse that guy, and pins him. The crowd goes crazy. There's 18,000 people. You couldn't hear yourself talk, and they start chanting USA, USA, USA. So finishes the tournament again, like, as everybody knows, our first All-American since Kevin Hoy was in the finals. Had the most pins in the tournament at 3, wins a Gregarian Award, and then caps off a historic season with the most falls for the season in the NCAA, and again, the most dominant wrestler for the 2nd year in a row. So in a second, another Big 12 title, which isn't easy to come by either. So just really, really impressive for Wyatt Hendrickson, what he's doing. And again, like, the exciting thing too is that, like, he's still growing, he's still getting better, and he's coming back. Like, that's really, like, his growth right now is, like, it's exponential, and he's going to continue to grow, get better. He's not complacent. He wants to be a national champion. He wants to bring other people with him on our team. So it's really exciting to see where he's at and how people can get behind him, which he's an easy guy to get behind, right? He's a man of high character and integrity. He loves to work hard. He loves to compete hard. He's here to be part of something bigger than himself, get a world-class education. He's just kind of the blueprint of, like, what it looks like to compete at the highest level and gain all the benefits we have at the United States Air Force Academy. So really excited for Wyatt, excited for what he's done for our program. His results are his results. The credit belongs to him. Excited for what him wearing Air Force on his chest and how he represents this institution, our Air Force, and our nation. And excited that people are behind him in that.
Yeah, for sure. Finally, I do want to ask you, and we'd be remiss probably if we don't look at the entire season, everything you guys have accomplished. Yes, 5 guys went to the NCAA, but you had, more than that, more than even the 10. This entire group put together a season where you end up being 18th, tied with Oklahoma State. Did you ever think Air Force Wrestling would be tied with Oklahoma State at the NCAAs?
Well, I don't know what the team was. I didn't know what team it was going to be. But again, like, I think that's always that. Like, since I got the job, that's always been the intention, right? And it's like, and then I could talk to you for hours about that. Like, well, yeah, that was the goal. But, like, what did it look like to build that model out, that business plan out, to, like, that, what was the strategy, like, how did you go about that? But yeah, I think you could start back at the NCAAs about when you talk about a historic season. We're a top 20 team as a service academy, right? There's a lot of programs that would really, really enjoy to be a top 20 team. And it's something that's not taken lightly, not easy to do. 28.5 points, the most points in the history of the Air Force Academy, right? So this team is in the top 4 teams in the history of in 70 plus years of Air Force Wrestling, right? It's one of the top 4 teams, and arguably it could be the best. Depends on what metric you use, right? But so that for us to be able to bring that back, but the NCAA is to be in the top 20 to score 28.5 team points, to have 3 guys be part of that to score points, and it wasn't just one guy, it wasn't just Wyatt, and it wasn't just those guys going out and winning matches, they were dominating guys, right? So we had 5 pins, 3 of those came from Wyatt, 2 of those came from Cody. Second most falls in the tournament. Only person ahead of us was Penn State, the national champion. So just a lot of great statistics around the NCAAs and where we're at. But I think that's a big deal. But 8-5 in dual meets, 6 Division I dual meet wins. We had a win over the Pac-12 dual meet champion. We had 7 medalists at the Big 12 tournament, a Big 12 champion, 5 national qualifiers. We had 9 of our 10 guys beat nationally ranked guys this year. I think 6 of our 10 guys beat returning All-Americans at some point in the time. The list of All-Americans we beat just keeps growing and growing and growing. And we had 21 guys get 3.0s at the semester. We had a team grade point average of over 3.0 going into the NCAAs. We continue to do a good job leading in the squadron. We're a mission-first program. Our guys are, doing good things on and off the mat. So I'm sure I missed some things. We got some some great opportunities coming up. They're going to come up with the Big 12 All Academic Awards here soon. They're going to come out with the NWCA Academic All-American Awards. We're going to have our highest number there, I think, once we get that confirmed. We're going to have just a few other opportunities to get some great recognition for this program. The APR, our retention, our graduation rates are high, so we're always striving for 1,000 points there. So if you're just talking about metrics and just data, like on paper this team is just phenomenal, but what's not on paper is just the type of quality individual we have and the culture we have and the love and support these guys have for each other and for pursuing excellence on and off the mat. So that to me is like the results are one thing, but how we're earning the results and who we are as we do it, that's the thing that ties it all together. That's the glue for me that makes this thing unique and special. And can't two other groups we got to shout out are first and foremost our fans, right? 150 people showed up to our social on Friday, right? Incredible, it just incredible. Not even close to that in past years. To have 150 people to show up at our social, to be there, so alumni, parents, just people that are supporters of the program, people working here at the Air Force Academy. Incredibly thankful for that, and then our staff. Like this doesn't happen if you don't have world-class people working with your cadet athletes. So our staff, our administration, the AFRTC board, the team behind the team, just all the support that went in to, again, like this was always the plan. This was always the plan, was to be a top 20 team. This was always the vision, and the belief that we can get there. But getting there, it takes a squadron, right? It takes a squadron, right? It takes a lot of people, it takes a lot of support, it takes a lot of beef, it takes a lot of resources. So that part of too, that goes back to the humility and the gratitude about like how grateful we are for this and how humble we are that it wasn't any one person's effort, it was everybody's effort to get the program here, and then the culminating thing is that we can keep, like I said before, Big 12 is like as well as we did, there's more room for growth. That's the exciting thing, is that there's more room for growth. We're not going to make predictions about next year in the future, but there's opportunities where we see places where like 100% there's room for growth in this organization and this team and these individuals, and that's exciting.
Yeah, for sure. Sam Barber, congratulations again on a brilliant season, and thank you for the time.
All right, appreciate it. Thanks.